Well, good Wednesday morning, everyone. And I decided that I will continue uh, with the rare uh, original classroom documents from the Zerubbabel Institute of Philosophical Youth, at least as they refer to the Tree of Life, which we started talking about yesterday. Here's artwork. We'll talk about that in just a second. But anyway, uh, we are reading from the classic text, the Chicken Kabbalah of Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford. It's available in paperback and Kindle and audiobook. And if you can find one of these rare hardbound editions that were more or less privately printed many, many years ago, I'm sure it would be too expensive. So I only have one myself. So anyway, rare official classroom papers from the Zerubbabel Institute of Philosophical Youth. Now, here, because they're papers, they're arranged like a classroom document there, okay? And the class is Kabbalistic Thinking 101. And the class master is Rabbi Milton Rowe. Milton Rowe. I'll wait for you to get it. Class number 1, date Adar 23rd, 520 BC. Now there's a footnote. Let's see. There is perhaps no more pathetic example of Rabbi Ben Clifford's naivete than his inclusion of the BC designation date upon the supposedly authentic ancient document. I had to point that out in respect for scholarly candor. Here is the text for the meditation. Now remember yesterday we established that Kabbalistic thought is more or less based on, if you think hard enough about anything, you'll eventually see everything, because everything is in anything. Anything could theoretically reveal the essence, the meaning, the profundity of anything. And that Kabbalists could use anything and could use any particular piece of literature. Any holy text would work. Any text would work. The label on the back of a ketchup bottle. Anything. But for many centuries, people that were engaged in this kind of spiritual technique and discipline, more or less were exclusively focused upon the Holy Scriptures. Now, you could call anything a Holy Scripture. I think Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, anything by Mark Twain is a Holy Scripture as far as I'm concerned, and could be used in precisely the same way as Kabbalists use the Bible, or modern Kabbalists would use any other document, including the Book of the Law, which we just finished talking about. But anyway, here's the text that the class was given. Professor Milton Rowe gave the class And he wanted the class to first think about this. Genesis 1:27, which said, "And created the Elohim Adam. In the image of Elohim created they them. Male and female created they them." Now the class is supposed to think real hard about that. And the postulate, each one of us is made in the image of deity. And so the assignment is think about yourself. Then write a 300-word essay on the creative nature of God. Winning essay number 1, submitted by Shechaniah, son of Jehiel. When Rabbi Rowe gave us the assignment to think about ourselves and then write an essay on the creative nature of God, I was sure I would not be able to do it. But then I started to think. The text says the Elohim created Adam, or the human race, in the image of the Elohim. We are not told that snakes or aardvarks or fish or worms or any other animal or plants were created in the image of Elohim. It seems to me that the question that begs asking is, what separates human beings from other animals? And I think I have the answer, at least an answer. Thumbs. We have thumbs. Sure, apes and monkeys and a few lemurs have thumbs, but none of them use them to create things. The fact that our thumb opposes the other 4 fingers is one important thing that separates us from the rest of our animal neighbors. With the opposable thumb, our ancestors made weapons, harnessed fire, fashioned tools and implements, created works of art, and hitchhiked. Our hands make us creative beings, just like deity. And the thumb is the key to our hands' success. Therefore, I've made the following conclusions. The hand. Spared no expense with this artwork. The hand of the Creator, or the creative mechanics of the universe, must be an absolute unity. Okay. Let's see, must be an absolute unit represented by the thumb, and that it executes its creative power through a 4-fold process represented by the 4 fingers. This, I believe, is the primary reason our venerable ancestors worshipped one God, whose great name is composed of 4 letters. Yod, He, Vav, He. Now, the word for hand in Hebrew is Yod, Y-O-D, or Y-V-D. And Yod, there it is right there, Yod is the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and it's the fundamental letter of the alphabet. As my father taught me, Yod is a flame. Blow upon it, and you form all the other letters of the alphabet. Yod represents the number 10 in our system of counting. Furthermore, we can see that the holy number 4 in itself conceals the number 10. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. Conclusion. After meditating upon myself and my hand, I conclude that there is one God who creates through a fourfold process and ultimately manifests through 10 levels of expression. For this reason, I contend that the number 1, 4, and 10 be considered holy and primary importance to our study. Final note. Dear Dr. Rowe, this essay is 398 words in length. Do I get extra credit? Shechaniah, son of Jehiel. Can you now see how contemplation on anything can lead you to a chain reaction of thought that gets your brain working in a way that it might not otherwise have ever worked, and how you start to see connections between absolutely everything and absolutely everything else. Winning essay number 2, submitted by Ramiah, son of Josiah. I'm sure I speak for the entire class when I say I'm filled with great admiration for my classmate Shechaniah, son of Jehiel, whose dissertation yesterday on the creative nature of God was a thrilling display of logic and insight. I agree wholeheartedly with all his conclusions and wish to use them as the foundation of further discussion. I think we can all agree that the creative power of the human hand with its opposable thumb is a key characteristic that separates human from other forms of terrestrial life. It is also very logical that we, being created in the image of God, should conclude that God is an absolute monad who executes its creative power through a fourfold process. This supports our tradition of the 4 Kabbalistic worlds, which are mirrored in humans by the 4 parts of the soul. And the footnotes refer to the 4 Kabbalistic worlds of Atzilith, Braya, Yetzirah, and Asaya, and the 4 parts of the soul, the Chai, the Neshama, the Ruach, and the Nefesh. Mirrored in humans as the 4 parts of the soul, and should earn our veneration for the number 1, or the numbers 1 and 4. Brother Shechaniah also pointed out that because the word Yod, which means hand, is the 10th letter of the sacred Hebrew alphabet, and that Yod represents the number 10, we should hold the number 10 in high regard as well. Also, we must remember that we have 2 hands with a total of 10 fingers, and this fact underscores the importance of 10. Now, I wish to point out that the word Yod, spelled Yod Vav Daleth, or YVD, which is not a public health question. YVD, spelled in full, is Yod 10, Vav 6, D 4, and 10, 6, 4 adds to the number 20, which reminds us that we, and therefore God, have 20 digits. For as the wise cobbler said, we mustn't forget our toes. 5, 5, 5, 5. 20. Now you may ask, is 20 as significant as and as holy as the number 1, 4, and 10? I say no. Because our 10 toes, while providing certain symmetry to our bodies, do not exactly set us apart from other less spiritually endowed creatures. But in between the two sets of fingers, that set and that set, in between is something else. We have a tongue, the power of speech. Through speech, we communicate and inform, just like deity does. Through speech, we create images in our minds and in the minds of others, just as deity does. Through speech, we give names to all things in our environment and organize our thoughts, just as deity does. Through speech, we bless and curse our friends and enemies, just like deity does. Through speech, we command, subjugate, and exploit anyone whose will is weaker than our own, just as deity does. Finally, between our two sets of toes, 5, 5, between our two sets of toes is another member that actually gives us the power to create other human beings in our own image. True, humans are not the only creatures to reproduce, but our father Abraham entered into a covenant with the deity, a covenant sealed by a curious gesture of mutilation. This rite of circumcision not only symbolizes, well, at least to Kabbalists of the Jewish faith, the rite of circumcision not only symbolizes our obedience to our God, but also our acknowledgement to ourselves that we can master and control our sexual drives for the greater good of family, race, and humanity in general. Conclusion. I think we can all agree that our unique powers of speech and the godlike power of creation that both men and women carry in their loins certainly qualify as divine characteristics and elevate the marvelous number 22 to equal status with 1, 4, and 10. As our holy Hebrew alphabet is composed of 22 letters, I think there can be no debate on this matter. Signed, Ramiah, son of Josiah. Okay, let's see what time we've got here. Okay, well, let's go one more paper. Here's assignment number 2. It's a role-playing game. You are the deity. You have not yet created anything. How would you go about making everything in the universe out of your oneness? Extra credit. Discover other holy numbers. Winning essay number 1, submitted by Zabad, son of Aziza. I had so much fun with this. I'm sorry. I'm my best audience. After studying the last few winning essays, I have to confess that I'm a little embarrassed to share the fruits of my meditations. I don't come from the big city like most of my fellow students, and so I guess the wheels of my mind naturally seek out ruts of homier byways of deliberation. All I know is that if I were deity before creation, I must have been very lonely. Being the only and absolute being, I might not even realize the nature of my own self. I symbolize this pre-creation state. Here, I'm going to more audio visuals here for us. It says, I symbolizes this pre-creational state as a simple circle. There's lonely number one. I have chosen this figure because the circle has no beginning or end and designated by the holy number one. Now, since I am one, an absolute, it follows that one is the only real number, the only legitimate reality. As deity, I think I'd be quite happy in my condition of oneness and leave it at that, but something clearly happened to induce me to create. In order for me to create the many things in the universe, I would need to create more numbers, and I think this is how it happened. I was alone and bored, and began to ponder the nature of myself. What am I? This was difficult because I was the only one. I had nothing else with which to compare myself. I wasn't this or that, because I had not yet created thises and that's. I was the absolute. There was no outside of me. I could not hold up a mirror and look at my image and say, oh, look, I'm one of those. I could, however, with great stillness and concentration, turn the focus of my attention inward. And like the holy men of India, observe my perfect reflection at the very center of my being. I would then, for the first time, be conscious of myself. I am this, I would shout. Even instantly, as these words echoed in my absoluteness, I would fall from my pristine state of singularity, for I would now have to admit the concept of two. Myself, I am, and my reflection, this. Oh, curse the moment I ever brought two into existence, because the moment myself became conscious of my reflection, my not self, a third concept was created. That is, the knowledge of the difference between self and not self. I am this, but that is not I. Conclusion. I assert that creation commenced when deity stirred from undistracted ecstasy and became self-conscious, an act which transformed its self-existence as the inscrutable divine unity into its self-image as the deity of creation. Therefore, I suggest that we also consider the number 3 one of our primary holy numbers. Signed, Zabad, son of Azia. Okay, let's see how much we got here. Let's go. Winning essay number 2, submitted by Josabad, son of Shemaiah, at R28, 520 BC. My compliments to Zabad, son of Aziza, for his wonderful essay on the holy number 3. I'm sure he would have gone on to enlighten us further, had he not been in such a hurry last night to slink off to West Bethany so he could accidentally bump into someone else's girlfriend at a certain off-limits inn and ply her with pomegranate fizzies while his classmates stayed up late working on this assignment. Be that as it may, my self-control and dedication to study has rewarded me with the following. Since 2 and 3 are merely attributes of 1, they should be considered, along with the number 1, as a single Trinity unit. The Trinity unit then behaves in precisely the same manner as the original 1 did when it reflected itself into 2. The Trinity reflects itself into a second Trinity unit. So, can you see? Squiggly line is like a mirror. And the second Trinity unit is a reflection of the first. A third Trinity unit is instantly created in the same way as the original 3 was instantly created upon the birth of 2. And this Trinity unit isn't a reflection, it's a repetition. First Trinity, second Trinity, and third Trinity unit. Making 9. Conclusion. As Zabad concluded, creation commences when deity defines itself and becomes self-conscious. A 3-part act which defines 1 as an abstract and unmanifested trinity, the supernal triad. But what Zabad was apparently too distracted to realize was that the deity cannot stop at self-knowledge. Momentum is established, which will result in a further series of 6 phenomenal emanations, by which the universe will categorize itself and organize its infinite potentialities. The following diagram will illustrate this idea. Okay. There's the diagram there. The divine light from the divine light first projects from the supernal triad, that's the top one. Second one, then shatters like sunlight through a prism and filters through the next 6 descending emanations. And then down at the bottom here where it says 10, okay, until it finally manifests from our point of view as the material plane or earth, the number 10. I believe that 10 hangs from the 3 triads like a cosmic dingleberry and provides an environment, a kingdom that traps the diffused and crystallized divine light inside a prison of matter. We live in this kingdom. It's the lowest of the emanations. It is where the divine light vibrates at its lowest frequency. It is where the invisible becomes visible. Signed, Josabat, son of Shimei. Dare I go on? No, I'm going to stop here for winning essay number 3. That will continue on that information. So I will continue tomorrow with this, and we'll finish up the rare original documents from the original Zerubbabel Institute of Philosophical Youth. So until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.